ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, my non-binary pals. I have something extremely important to talk about with all of you. Really not that important, but, well, yeah, it actually is kind of important. But it's still something I really want to talk about with all of you. Now you might be thinking, no, what's this fool, this clown? What does he want to talk to me about? I don't want to talk to him. He just broke into my house. I don't want to talk to him. You might be thinking, and yeah, that's pretty fair. I wouldn't want to talk to someone that just broke into my house, but here I am anyway, in your house, talking to you. So, now that we know, that I want to talk about something with all of you, I'm thinking, what does this kid want to talk about? Very great question. I would like to talk about with all of you the history of the mentality of manifest destiny and how the United States is built, or at least the modern United States is built upon a foundation of this idea. Now, before we get into that, you're like, whoa, whoa, slow down, bucko. Who even are you? Great question. So, before we talk about this, in order to get a really good, connection and actually understand, what I'm talking about, let's talk about a teensy tiny bit of who I am. So, my name is Will Anderson. I'm in 10th grade. I go to Theodore High School. Let's see, I'm in the Boy Scouts. I just watch my Japanese foreign cartoons mainly and play video games. That's about it. Okay, we have a tiny bit of information about me. So, now you might be thinking, now that we have my introduction out of the way, you might be thinking, that term you said earlier, that manifest destiny, whatever, what is that? What's the deal with that? Another great question. Y'all are really great with these questions. My cat is playing with my foot. That's nice. So, manifest destiny was a term coined around it was in the 1800s, 19th century, when America had this mentality of expanding its influence and wanting more land and more control of the area around it. This mentality, or this term covers, a lot of the westward expansion and, think pioneers, western expansion. Yeah, we're talking about that. So, you might be thinking, well, okay, so, we expanded west. I don't see why, that's, what was there really to talk about that? Well, there's a lot. So, manifest destiny, like I said earlier, this led to, westward expansion. That's a pretty big deal whenever you think about it. You don't even really need to think about it, in my opinion, but that's a pretty huge deal. So, not only are we expanding our border, but an expanded border means expanded influence, which, this whole manifest destiny thing covers. Now you might be thinking, well, an expanded border, that's pretty nifty if I say so myself. And it kind of is. However, there are some major things, not necessarily good things, that arose from that. And one key thing that, whenever you talk about expansion, this whole, this era in American history, one thing that always comes to mind is America's rather notoriously poor treatment of its natives. So, you might be thinking, well, I fell asleep in history class that day. What happened to our natives? Well, some not very amazing things happened to our natives. To, put it, make a long story short and possibly be a little tiny bit distasteful. But, to go into specifics, one thing that happened is the Trail of Tears. Now, the Trail of Tears was this mass movement of local tribes of natives from basically forced relocation of our natives from their original homes to just a reservation in Oklahoma. Now, most of the tribes and most of the people that, were affected by this, they were forced to move. However, there were go on a little bit of a side tangent. There were a few tribes that did escape this. One that comes to mind was the Seminole. Seminole was actually kind of like a tribe of just, hodgepodge of other tribes and some escaped slaves from the Caribbean, I believe. Kind of just like a hodgepodge of all of those people that kind of mangled into, one troop, or not troop, but tribe. They were mainly inhabiting the, region of Florida, which was mainly uncovered, not really discovered very well. And, they fled into the Everglades, and they actually remained free until they joined the U.S. government in around the 60s, I believe. But anyway, a little bit of a side tangent. So, that is a direct consequence of Manifest Destiny. Now, you might be thinking, well, that is quite horrible. And it is. And the treatment of, people like, all of the different tribes of natives and other people, has been not great for a while now. But I digress. That is a whole another can of worms, my friend. Now, I might have said something earlier about this, but if you think the idea of Manifest Destiny is gone, you are very sorely mistaken. You might be thinking, whoa, how so? I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. Like, what were you talking about, Will? And, to be honest, I can see why you think that. So, one reason why I am a firm believer that America is built upon a foundation of Manifest Destiny is, to put it into context, let's go back a little bit. This will explain why I believe this. So, and even around the time of, expanding westward, there was another conflict happening called the Spanish-American War. Very extremely brief summary. A battleship in the Caribbean gets exploded. U.S. thinks it's Maine. Like, all right, let's go to war. Okay. So, am I thinking, this is unrelated. What are you talking about? And if you don't really know a whole lot about, the outcomes of this war, I could see why you think that. However, the outcome of the Spanish-American War will maybe change your mind. So, after the Spanish-American War, America acquired several island territories that Spain once controlled. These included, places like Cuba, even though the United States obviously later relinquished control of Cuba. I think it was actually not too long after the Spanish-American War, but I'm not 100% sure about that. You might want to... Don't take my word for it, even though I am making a whole lecture. But, anyway, they acquired Cuba, places like Puerto Rico, Guam, the Philippines, and Hawaii. Those are places that America got as a result of this war. And, places like Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, those are still part of, those are still U.S. territories, and one of them is even a state. And places like the Philippines were actually not relinquished, or were not taken, until World War II. So America really held on to that for a little bit. So now you might be thinking, well, okay, I can now see why you think this. But I'm not really sure if that alone, means that America's, on this foundation of this idea. And I believe that you would be mistaken if you stick to that idea. Now, again, a bit more context. Before and before World War I, America outside, on a global level, did not really have a ton of influence. Now, you might be thinking, okay, slow down. What does World War I have to do with this? Like, what? And, that'd be fair in thinking that. But, let me explain myself. So, during World War I, we all know the whole song and dance. America sent supply to Britain, and, well, I think France was actually captured at that point, but America sent supply to their friends, and Germany's like, whoa, we don't like that. Let's, use our new submarine technology and, make that not happen and blow up their ship. And America did not really like that, so they joined the war. Again, an extremely basic overview of that, but I digress. So America joins World War I, and that is the first time that America has, really joined in major world affairs. And after this, we have, after World War I, we all know the Roaring '20s, economies going up, Great Depression, economy go down, and again, extremely basic, but whenever the economy of America really, tanked, a lot of the world was affected by that. And you might be thinking, this has nothing to do with Manifest Destiny. Hold on. What is Manifest Destiny? The original idea of Manifest Destiny was wanting to expand your influence, not only, by getting more territory, but politically as well. Can you see how this is similar? Now, Manifest Destiny is wanting to expand your influence. After the World War I era, America is now really expanding its influence on the world. Now, this does not end here, because America would not become a major world power and a major player in the global, economy, just a global superpower after World War II. World War II, first nuclear bombs are developed by America. They kind of have a monopoly for a little bit, on that. And World War II, and especially the Cold War, are kind of, like case in point of America having the biggest, having a lot of influence on the affairs of our world. So, the Cold War and World War II are kind of, at least to me, are main points in showing that America is built upon this foundation of Manifest Destiny. Why is that? America, after World War II, is now one of the biggest superpowers in the world. If not the. The whole Cold War was about the two biggest superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Yeah, they were kind of at odds with each other. So, America extending its influence on the world, how is it any different than in the 19th century when it was simply expanding westward? Manifest Destiny does not apply to your border. It also applies to your influence and what you want to spread, what message you want to spread, and spreading that message. Cold War, that message was capitalism good. So, I leave you with this question. Is there really much difference between expanding westward and wanting to expand your influence politically and expanding your border and creating a small empire and wanting to spread a message of which economic system is superior? I will let you determine that. I want to thank you for listening to me. Maybe ramble on a little bit. And I will see all of you later. Peace.